Hey, this is Russell Moore. This is my favorite picture of Walker Percy on the cover of the Oxford American magazine from several years ago. He's just sitting on the bench, chilling. I like that image of him because you can see a lot in the eyes. There's a what I thought was a bust of Walker Percy when I ordered it. It turns out it's like a 3D printed plastic thing. I'm not happy with it, but hey, it's Walker Percy. And the reason we're talking about Walker Percy today is because today would have been his 104th birthday, and because several of my friends have been saying to me throughout reading in Exile, dude, I can't believe you haven't talked about Walker Percy when that is the writer that probably has had more influence on you than anybody else. And that's true. That's true. Let me tell you why we haven't talked about Walker Percy yet. It's because I have so much to say about Walker Percy that I could do a video here that would go on so long that you all would be in just so bored that you'd throw your phones against the wall. It would go on so long. So I've said, how can I talk about Walker Percy when I have so much to say about him? So today what I'm going to do is to try to say as little as possible about Walker Percy and just answer the question that one of you asked me on Instagram today, which is, if I want to read Walker Percy, where do I start? Okay, I've got in front of me, some of the Walker Percy books. There's a lot more of them around here, but I pulled some of them out. But let me just talk about what you should read. In terms of, if you have to choose one novel by Walker Percy, it's The Moviegoer. This novel is about Binks Bowling, who's a businessman living ordinary life in Gentilly, suburb of New Orleans and neighborhood of New Orleans. And a lot of things happen. He ends up going on a road trip a little bit over the state line to where I'm from on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But the main thing of The Moviegoer is this sense of the Wayfarer. It's a theme that shows up in Percy often, coming right out of Kierkegaard. Some people would label him, he didn't much like the labels, but would label him a Christian existentialist. And so his argument is that a human being is more than an organism and an environment. A human being is a pilgrim and a stranger and a wayfarer. And so the point of a human life is the quest, the search. And he talks about it in this. It's a book I reread about every year or so. So I would start there. Anything you see with Walker Percy on it is going to be good. Although, if you're not a philosophical type, don't pick up his semiotics stuff right away, or you'll just think I can't make heads or tails of this. But start there. And if nonfiction, if you have to choose one thing, it would be Signposts in a Strange Land, collection of essays. Maybe, all in all, has had more influence on my life than any other book, other than the Bible, maybe. But it's a collection of essays, everything about race and the church and cultural Christianity and the mission of the church in a secularizing culture, to some interaction with literature of various kinds, now, Walker Percy could be a little grumpy, apparently. He liked, this is one of the things I love about Walker Percy, is he liked to go to the Waffle House. Someone in one of the biographies of Percy says they came up behind Percy talking with Eudora Welty and expected that they would be discussing Chekhov or Faulkner or what have you, but no, they were talking about The Incredible Hulk, which was on television at the time. That's the kind of guy he is. He could be a little grumpy. When Shelby Foote, his best friend, and he went to William Faulkner's house because Foote really wanted to meet Faulkner, Percy was too grumpy or too embarrassed or shy. He wouldn't get out of the car. So he never met William Faulkner. Faulkner came out with Shelby Foote and just waved at him and went on. I mean, so anyway, I say all that to say he was a little grumpy sometimes, and he would get frustrated with the sorts of questions that people would ask him. So he interviewed himself. And he's got the questions he wishes people would answer, and he answered them. And even some of those were kind of grumpy. It really is kind of hilarious. Don't start with Lost in the Cosmos, but Lost in the Cosmos. If you read it without reading anything else, you'll say, this is the strangest nonsense I've ever read in my life, but it's brilliant. And so if you see what he's doing in Lost in the Cosmos and you're able to go a little bit at the time, then this is a really, really good book. If you want to just know about Percy, he's my fellow Mississippian. He was born in Alabama, ended up in Louisiana, but he spent his formative years in Mississippi, in Greenville, with his uncle Will, author of Lanterns on the Levee. So that counts as a Mississippian. And his father died by suicide. Many people in his family did. His mother in a car accident. So he lived his life with this sense of loss and sense of tragedy. Really interesting life. A lot of times with a writer, you read a biography, it's not very interesting because their lives are all internal. His are. So if you want to know about Percy, I would recommend Pilgrim in the Ruins by J. Tolson. That's my favorite. Although Patrick Samway's Walker Percy, A Life is good as well. And this is a really good book that I really like. The Life You Save May Be Your Own. It's about Percy, Dorothy Day, Flannery O'Connor, and Thomas Merton all together. So it's kind of like The Fellowship, that biography of all of the Inklings together. This does this with them. And there's also a documentary, I think it's on Amazon Prime, on Walker Percy, that's well worth watching as well. So I would just say pick up Walker Percy anywhere except the semiotic stuff. It's good. And if you're a philosopher, pick that up. But for anybody else, you can start anywhere other than that in Walker Percy, and I think you'll be changed by it. So I'm really reflecting on how grateful I am today for 104 years ago. Somebody who not only lived a life the way that he did, but who wrote about it for people who were similarly lost and found in the cosmos. This is Russell Moore, and this is Reading in Exile. Let me know in the comments what you would like for us to talk about here next time.